Greetings and felicitations.
Okay, here comes the first round.
Boom. And
Jeez, that was just
boom.
unnecessary.
You kidding me? You can't be out of range? What?
Greetings and felicitations, YouTube. Jarl of the Appian Way here, and Malleus was last weekend, and just... Oh my god, it was fun. So, if you've been following my channel, you know that I've been really psyching myself up to play this this Leonesan serf in this game, just as peasantly as they come. And the entire idea was, okay, can I play that Bretonnian mob experience and survive? The answer? Sort of. Technically, but no. It's definitely that meme. Yes, but no. No, it was. I had a blast. I feel like I learned a lot. Like, this is weird. You wouldn't have expected this going into this game, but I feel like I learned a lot about the human condition and about myself. Let me just go ahead and tell you the story. So, I went in expecting that if I did survive, that my peasant mob might end up coming out the other end looking more like this. Okay. But what really happened was he actually ended up becoming more like this. And then stuff happened. And I think I'm going to be showing up to the next event looking like this. Okay, let me just tell you how that happened, how that came about. I made sure, it's kind of like a inside joke, but also world building, to put on my character sheet that my peasant was trained in archery. Somebody had told me, the faction leader had told me that all Leonesan peasants are trained from a young age in how to use the bow. But not all Leonesan peasants can actually afford a bow. So my character is trained in archery. My character is also trained in, like farming stuff and chopping wood, And I showed up to game with a stick. Peasant, where's your bow? Where's your axe? My liege gave me this stick. All part of the running gag, but there came a part where we were going off to face some sort of peril, and they ask my character that question, what can you do? Well, I'm a trained archer. Well, where's your bow? I have a stick. And then one of them went, wait, we have a bow. And then they ran off and they grabbed it, and then somebody else handed me some arrows, and all of a sudden there I am being a peasant archer, and I'm like, okay, this is an evolution that I had anticipated but hadn't planned for. So I ended up being also an archer for a little bit, which was kind of cool. But I think the most important thing to tell you about is how I ended up in that true peasanty surf experience. First night, right off the get-go, I'm actually feeling pretty good, because I'm actually getting a lot of compliments for the kit, and in particular one of the game staff that I love and respect dearly came up to me and they told me just how much they loved my work and said it was my best work yet. My wife deserves a lot of the credit. I had the general design concept, she did all of the sewing, and I did the makeup, and that was it. Same person, they also told me, I know how hard it is to play this character. How are you doing? Are you okay? And I was feeling really invisible, very invisible. Which makes sense. If there's, somebody who looks like a pox-diseased peasant in the room, people aren't going to want to run on up to you and interact with you. For the most part, especially the people who are playing nobles, are just going to pretend you're not there. That's the easy way to interact with this character, is to pretend that they don't exist. Yeah. It was tough. It was a lot harder on me than I originally thought it was. I had to take some time later on, and I'll get there, to really reflect on, what am I feeling? What is going on? So yes, anyway, first night. First night, I'm already like getting myself into the character. People are pretty much ignoring me, but when I do get their attention, the reaction that I get from them is exactly what I was aiming for. A lot of them just looking at me and going, "Oh, can you stand further away from me, please?" Even one person actually telling me to turn my face to my other side because I had the one splotch right here, and this cheek was mostly clean. They had me turn the other cheek, literally. Oh my god, how's that for Catholic allegory? Turn the other cheek, peasant. Ugh. Anyway, so yeah, I'm feeling invisible. I'm learning a lot about playing like the bottom of the bottom cast here, and I've had some very fascinating conversations with people I trust and know, including some friends of my channel who live in India, who are familiar with the caste system, having not personally lived experience, but very familiar with untouchables. And I wasn't playing an untouchable by any stretch of the imagination, but I was playing an invisible. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But that first night, a road warden captain tells my character, "Hey, there's some silver in it for you if you can get me some information, but I gotta step outside of the sanctuary for a bit. I'll see you later." And I go about my business, and I do see him later. Maybe about 15 minutes later, I had information for him. I'm like, "Hey, let's earn some coins." So I step outside. I'm like, road warden captain," and he turns to look at me. He's wearing like this helmet, right? He turns to look at me, and we're maybe about 3 feet from each other, and he throws back the helmet, and all I see is a skull, and he screams at me, and I was like, my true calling of a Bretonian peasant has come. I screamed right back, and then he slashed me in the side, and I ran back inside before I died. And that was being a true peasant mob part 1. Being a true peasant mob part 2 was the next day. There's actually 2 game modes at Malleus LARP. 99.9% of your experience there is live action roleplay. What you see is what you get. You're reacting to it. People are reacting to you, and it's the majority of the fun, and it's a blast. But there's also I'm going to call it a mini game, a side game. But there's also a side game where you and another group of adventurers can get together and do something called Plunder the Depths. And this isn't straight up LARPing. This is actually a narrative experience. By narrative experience, I mean you guys go to an area, you're interacting with a game mechanic. In this case, it's actually Jenga. And you're telling a story as you go. And it's directed by somebody else who's there, kind of leading the experience. And you draw a card from a pile, you read the card, and it tells you what you're facing. You react to it, and then you interact with the Jenga tower, and if you make the Jenga tower fall over, it's doom for everyone. It's pretty awesome. It's a great way to earn resources in the game, which are important for crafting and for collecting materials that you need for your faction to win the event. Okay, so we're plundering the depths. I've got my bow at this point. I'm feeling more like a successful peasant archer. I loved this. The place we were going was called the Mire. And my character, Henri Lemire, literally Henry from the Mire. So I was so excited. It's like, I am going home. Anyway, I draw my card. And the situation I'm reading is basically there's a host of crazies coming at you, led by one giant hulk of a man in black armor with a blazing hand plastered onto his breastplate. And I'm going, oh no. I'm being attacked by a Chaos Knight. It was a Chaos Warrior of Karnak, and he was charging right at me. And that was definitely another one of those moments of, yes, my time has come. I ran out of there screaming, because you have the option to just completely say that it's too much for you and not participate. Not as like a safety mechanic, but as like a choice with that tower. If you think you're going to make it fall over, or if you think that the consequences aren't worth it, you can choose to run away, and you'll just be wounded, and you'll be dazed and confused and not have much memory of what happens. And you return to the sanctuary alone. And I kind of did the mental calculations, and I realized it was very much more important to keep that tower standing and not interact with it than try and go for it. So I went the route of, it's too much for my character, because obviously he's being charged by a Chaos Warrior, so he bugged out. He ran. And the way I roleplayed the fact that he had to be wounded and dazed and confused, I just roleplayed it that he got a massive head wound. You know, like a concussion. Boom, right on the head. And I went back to the sanctuary. I went into the restroom to do some more costume and makeup, and I added like this line of blood dripping from the forehead. And this goes back into the invisible experience, okay? I was super proud of that decision to run away. It was like the most Bretonian mob, Leonesan peasant thing I could think to do, and it was perfect. Cowardly ran away. Apparently, I found out later somebody was stalking me on my return trip and tried to shoot me with an arquebus pistol of some sort, and it misfired. And I heard the bang, and I started running faster, but my character almost died right there. Anyway, I go back in. I'm putting blood around my forehead. I'm basically stumbling around the sanctuary, dazed and confused. And maybe like 15 minutes goes by before somebody actually approaches me. It's somebody else from my faction, another peasant. And she looks at me and says, Henri, huh? Can you help me carry this large piece of wood so we can get paid by the road wardens? So I go off and I pick up this. It's part one of a fetch quest. Basically, it's a large piece of a stockade, and I'm carrying it across the sanctuary, blood dripping from my forehead, trying to roleplay that I'm not very sure-footed, and I go over and I take it over to the road warden captain, and he looks at me and he's like, "Okay, you've earned some money," and then he hands me 2 silver and sends me on my way. And then I get up from there and I start stumbling my way around again, and I ended up almost falling into the hands of another Leonesan peasant, and this one looks at me and says, Henri, you're bleeding. And so finally I'm go, huh? Oh, I am bleeding. And then we get that treated. But it's just, again, part of that experience of the lesson I learned about human nature here, especially as it pertains to caste systems, is that when you're at the bottom of that totem pole, the only real way you're getting noticed is if something is terribly wrong, or if you're misbehaving, if you're revolting or revoluting, if you're plagued, if you are greatly misbehaving. Those are the only times that people would really notice my character. When it was dark out, daytime, it was actually a little bit easier to be noticed. And I don't recommend this style of roleplay for most people. It's hard to do. I had a great time, and I was really enjoying it as like a social experiment. And I greatly enjoyed it. That said, I definitely still have some things I need to process about all of that. And I've been, and I'm grateful to my friends, in particular Scorpion. Hello. He's actually been helping me talk through a lot of this and deconstructing my thoughts on what it feels like to be at the bottom of the caste system. Just so, hats off to you. He's a very bright and intelligent guy. He's a moderator on my channel. Anyway. That evening... oh, man, that evening. There is a vampire noble in the area. He has his own castle. And, he launches an attack on the sanctuary, on the fort. And we're preparing for it. We have grand schemes planned out. They fail miserably. Gloriously, I should say, they fail. And I'm mostly just being a peasant archer up in the tower, which is actually where our shrine was located and also where triage was located. And I remember getting up there and thinking, this place is going to be a death trap, because there's only one way out of there, and that's the stairs leading down. And sure enough, the forces of the undead fought all the way to the bottom of the staircase, and I'm trying to find a way out. I tried jumping out a window. First floor window, right? But I get out, I'm finally free from the chaos that's happening behind me. I totally get bit on the neck, and I had to have a moment with that player later on going, okay, of all of the people to bite, you chose this guy? I was even smelling like death already because of the burial perfume oil that this player recommended to me, and didn't she look fantastic? But anyway, I step out, and the first person I see is the other Bretonian peasant that actually helped me with the head wound. And I run up to him, Toulouse! And he turns and looks at me, and then he picks up his axe and he swings right for my arm. He had been enthralled by the evil forces that had attacked, and that put me to the fallen condition. So I hit the ground, and then as I'm like, oh no, I'm on my 10-minute death counter, what do I do? That's when this guy, an Imperial Greatsword, Markland mercenary, rolls up to me and he's like, that's just a peasant. He had also been enthralled, and he takes his... Literally, the sword was longer than that man was tall. Boom! Coup de grace. My character was dead. And I pretty much laid there under the stars for the next 10 minutes, listening to everything unravel around me, staring up at this one star in the point of light above me, going, wow. And so I was like, okay, I'm definitely dead. But I'm not just gonna lay here. I'm gonna act this up. I'm gonna play it up. I made the choice to, even though it wasn't necessarily with the rules, it was in the spirit of the rules, in the spirit of the role play. Play it up, and people will reward you for good role play. So I start crawling across the gravel ground of the fort towards the other tower. And eventually, I get about halfway there, and somebody sees me. They run out, they grab me, they take me back in, and they're like, healers. And just as the healers are about to treat me, I mention to them out of game, I'm like, this is actually a corpse. And they went, oh, that peasant's dead. That's a really dead peasant. And then this guy turns and looks to some of the other healers there, and he says, if they lose their heads, they can't be enthralled. They won't get back up. And so another player takes their axe and 3 swings, not like one clean beheading, but like whack, 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 removes my character's head. And then somebody else comes along, picks up the body and says, I think this one's a Leonesan. All right, well, let's take him over to the other Leonesans. Drags me back across the courtyard through the sanctuary to where other Leonesans are, and delivers my headless body and my head. I'm not going to spoil what my character saw on the other side, because there are other people that play that are going to watch this video who haven't died yet. But suffice it to say, it filled my character with a lot more zealotry and the desire to not stay dead. They wanted to use a piece of witch stone to revive me, which originally, you have to know that the witch stones are actually a very important resource. The more of them you collect, the better your faction performs. My character, even as even with his life on the line, his soul on the line, he refused resurrection by witch stone because it consumes the witch stone. And he didn't see his life as having that much value. So, if he's particularly pious, they can do what's called a devout resurrection, where you come back a lot more messed up than you were before you went. And made perfect sense to me. They literally stitched the character's head back on. There was a whole scene for it. They tried wrapping it in bandages. I had put in like a line of blood straight around the neck and everything, and then they do a resurrection ceremony, and they pull this worthless little peasant back from the dead, but he came back a zealot, like hardcore zealot. He knew now what was on the other side, and he was driven now by his faith in the lady. And that's why I'm thinking twofold here, that at the next event I'm going to come back looking like a battle pilgrim. Part 1, zealotry. Part 2, there's actually 3 parts of this. Part 2, he's sick and tired of being a serf back in the lands now that he's gotten a taste for what it means to have significance and power, what it means to fight in the darkness alongside a Leonesan duke and a captain of a witch hunter captain. That was actually an experience that Henri would never have had in his mundane day-to-day life as a serf. So driven by significance, by zealotry, and driven by the fact that he probably doesn't want to lose his head again, I'm going to be making that ridiculous gorget with the kind of like the gambeson padding that you see on the Battle Pilgrim unit card. I'm going to try and make that and wear it, and I'm really stoked about it and pretty pumped up. Okay, this video has turned out a lot longer than I was expecting it to be. After my character had died, I spent maybe about an hour 15 or longer out of game, because I realized I needed to take the moment to process not the experience of dying in this game, but the experience of living in this game as somebody of so little significance. That's not to say that I didn't impact the game any. That's not to say that I didn't kill anything either. I think I killed like four skeletons and a brigand or something along those lines total. And other characters were utilizing my character to do important things. But I also found a great deal of witchstone. And, I was impactful. It was those moments standing around in the tavern where you're feeling invisible, where, again, really interesting social experiment. But also that plays a toll on you after a while when you're somebody like me who obviously loves the limelight. I mean, look at me. I have a channel. I've got subscribers. So that was tough. And this is definitely a character that he may not be as invisible going forward, but he is going to continue to move and operate like that. And he'll just have a lot of zealot things to do and say. Witches beware, because I'm going the devout direction with this character. People are not going to want to spout no heresy around me. Man, oh man, what a fun game. I hope you enjoyed some of the clips and pictures I was showing throughout this process. I know I showed off the embroidery machine. Man, that thing was fun, and it really added a lot of material to not just my kit, but I was able to make some favors like that for other players as well. And yeah, man, I don't know what else to say. I think I'd be remiss if I also didn't mention the play from other characters who were playing as peasants at this event. In particular, there was Rota, who was pretty much just there to try and steal people's stuff. I have a really good story about this character. I mentioned that I had gone out late at night with a couple of witch hunters and a Leonesan duke. It was really by kind of happenstance that I ended up with them, because I had also gone out with the other Leonesan peasants, and we're all looking for any witch stone at this point. We had lost a good portion of ours in the undead attack on the sanctuary, and we're out there. It's dark o'clock at night. We're looking for witch stone. We find one, and as is often the case, my character ends up being the one to carry it, because his having survived the plague before made him a little bit more resistant to the disease aspect of picking up witchstone, but doesn't protect him from the corruption or the greed that he feels when he picks it up. So I picked it up, I put it in my pouch, which is actually kind of comedic when I put it in the pouch, because the pouch itself is woven, so the rock itself glows. It is a bright green LED light. And so you put it in the pouch, and you can actually see it glowing through all of the stitches in it. It's actually pretty neat. But anyway, we start walking back, and that's when we realize we're coming across another group of people. And the witch hunters and the Duke tell me, get back, get back, get back. So I get back, I pull the witch stone out of the pouch, and I do the next most dangerous thing. So I'm holding this corrupted, it's warpstone. I'm holding this corrupted piece of warpstone right here, right next to my heart. And I turn around and I come back, and that's when I'm being told, we're chasing them down. We were taking the initiative. We were going to attack. So we started running after them. And here's my poor little peasant bub with a witch hunter captain, his witch hunter ally, and a Leonesan Duke. And our entire strategy here is, we're going to mug these guys. If you were to tell my Leonesan peasant that the Duke was going to mug a guy, wouldn't have believed it. But we finally caught one, and it turns out to be Rota. And there I am, standing over her body with a couple of witch hunters and a Duke. And the Duke and the witch hunters, they're mocking her. It's ridiculous, right? My little Bretonian peasant bub never would have expected this kind of behavior. But for the first time ever in his life, he's looking down at someone else. And this is after the whole resurrection thing, so he's already changed and a little messed up. And with the witch stone on his body too, he's angered. He's furious with her because she's a firebrand. She really is. She tried to, even though she was defeated and down on the ground, she tried to attack the witch hunter captain, and I couldn't believe it. He just pulled off this ridiculous block from an attack that they couldn't have seen coming, and said some like final words, and then we like boom gave a coup de grace, but we knocked her out. That's what it was. And that's when we heard people coming from the castle, and we're like, oh no, that's probably the other forces of the undead. We should really get out of here. Yeah, let's leave. We left Rota there for the undead to pick up. And as it turns out, I think I heard later on that the vampire noble forced the witch hunter captain later on to apologize to Rota. Oh man. But I want to get one thing straight. This player will absolutely 100% agree with me. She deserved it. Oh my god. At one point, after this whole resurrection thing, my character is standing at this table with next to all of the Leonesans who are sitting there, like the nobles, right? And they're sitting there eating cheese, drinking wine. Perfect for them, right? This noble woman, which you got to remember, devotion to the lady, right? This noble woman comes over and is trying to like be somewhat apologetic to Henri. Her name's Lady Amelie. And the reaction that got out of Henri was to literally fall to his knees at the table and, like drop all of his stuff and just be like, no, please, you cannot apologize to me, no. And she's trying to console him, so she reaches out to like pat his hand and then stops at the last second, picks up a napkin, and then goes, there. Perfect roleplay. But yeah, it's really interesting how just over the course of one weekend the character evolved, and how my Bretonian peasant is going to evolve into the next event. And it's only going to be like one major kit change, maybe a new weapon, and that's it. And on top of all of that, just how loving and accepting this entire community is. Great players, fantastic to work with. Everybody is showering everyone else in this game with praise. There's so many things that happen that I can hardly touch upon it all. There are people out there with flintlock rubber guns. Like, they're designed to launch these rubber bands, right? But You also set up like a firecracker with them, and you get like a loud bang and a puff of smoke when they fire off. Like, it's just, the attention to detail is so good. It is so good. It really inspires you to continue to do better and bring better, and that's why I want to upgrade the kit. And on top of that, but I might also be doing something very, very evil too. There's forces of ruin in this game, and they're played by the players.
I might be doing something a little
Chaotic. Ta-ta, I love you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video.